Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast dedicated to helping you grow your dance studio while reclaiming your life. It's Clint Salter here, the CEO and founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association. And for the next 8 weeks, we're bringing you a very special series of podcast episodes with dance studio owners Jane Grech and Melanie Gard, who are also part of our Inner Circle program. Over these next 8 episodes, Jane and Mel will be sharing their own challenges, successes, experiences, and advice as dance studio owners. Welcome to this very special podcast event, At The Barre with Jane and Mel. I hope you enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to At The Barre. This is our 5th episode, and today we're talking about resilience. And I'm very pleased to be once again joined by lovely Miss Melanie Gard. Hello to you, Mel.
Hi, Miss Jane. How are you today?
Very well, very well. Always great. And you?
I'm really well, thank you. Happy to be talking to you once again.
5th episode, Miss Mel. 5th.
Woohoo.
Feeling a little bit chuffed about that, because I have thoroughly, and I know I can speak on behalf of you here because we've discussed it, but I'm thoroughly thrilled at the response we've had so far, and very humbled by it too. And it's exciting for us to chat, obviously, each week. We both really enjoy that, and I look forward to it. But it's really nice to have this opportunity to share some of our ideas and thoughts with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had, both you and I have had lovely messages, both on Facebook and privately. And it's been really nice to know that some of the conversations that we've had have struck a chord with people and resonated with them. And I guess that was really our intention from the beginning, was to try and reach out to people and share our experiences, not professing to be experts by any stretch of the imagination, but I guess both you and I have had a lot of experience over the years, and if we can share that and people find value in it, then yay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And today is a bit of a meaty topic, resilience. And, you know, it's funny. I watch kind of buzzwords come through in and out. You know, a couple of years ago it was all about why, and lately it's all about grit. And often that's off the back of some really fantastic work by thought leaders. And Angela Duckworth's done some fantastic work on grit. But obviously resilience, it's been there all along, tenacity, and it's 100%. You've got to develop it as a business owner. If you don't have it, I think you might as well bail out now, because it's not a matter of if things are going to test you, but a matter of when.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's either something that comes reasonably naturally, or just as an observation for some friends that perhaps really struggle with resilience. Owning your own business can be super, super hard if you're not resilient, because, as you say, you know, you're always going to be tested. I mean, every week there's another little test, and just when you think you've got something sorted, there's another thing that happens that, you know, you weren't expecting, and so you have to be able to build up your toolbox of resources to, you know, deal with that.
Often, you know, I love sayings, and I've realised actually in these podcasts how much I really do love sayings, and I think it's my mother's fault, but it's often the straw that breaks the camel's back, isn't it? It's not always these massive things that everybody thinks, oh, how's she going to respond to that? That's a blow. Sometimes it can just be the sum of a whole lot of little things. You just said, you know, it's like day after day, something week after week, and that's the truth. And sometimes you can just think, wow, I'm done for the minute. Yeah. So what are some of, you know, I see you as a very resilient person, and I like to think that I'm quite a resilient person as well. So what are some of your strategies to getting up again?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, I was reflecting on this, and very early in my career, back before I owned a studio, I was working in the area of disability and community development. And I had one of my bosses at the time, I'd had a meeting with her, and she said, Melanie, you're so tenacious. And I walked out and I thought, I don't even really know what that means. And I went and looked up the word. And
did you?
Yeah.
Good, because someone said that to me and I didn't know what it meant either, also quite a long time ago, and I looked it up. Fantastic.
Oh, there you go.
So anyway, tenacious, you better share what it means so other people don't need to.
I can't even think what it means right now, but I guess, she was reflecting on, like, I was like a dog with a bone. I wasn't going to give up until I had, achieved what I'd set out to do. So I took that as a real compliment at the time because I really admired this person. And I guess it was something that I learned about myself, that I was tenacious. I guess I've always been that way. I am the eldest child. I was always a reasonably high achiever at school, all those kind of classic things, I guess, that you attribute to the eldest child. So it's something that's come naturally. In saying that, I'm also super, super sensitive. Like I take things to heart. So I guess there is a flip side to that I'm trying to understand that and we've talked about this in some of the previous episodes, that not everything is about you personally, and separating what happens in your business from, this isn't a direct attack on me. This parent's complaining. This has been their experience. This is not about me as a person. This is about my organisation and what can I do to sort of unpack exactly what's happened here. Yes, sometimes people are crazy and we go, okay, they're not our ideal customer. That's fine. But other times the feedback is valid and we have to be able to look at that feedback and say, okay, well, what was going on here? It's not a personal attack. What can I do about, changing that within our organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of compartmentalism about it, isn't it? Putting it into two separate boxes can be very helpful. It's just something, as you're talking then, I didn't have it written down, but sometimes I feel like I put on my armour because I'm an empath like you, and I just sometimes need to shield myself.
Yeah.
I actually need to protect my heart. And it was Kelly Abbey, who is a very famous Australian choreographer, who also shared that technique with me a couple of years ago when I was listening to her speak. And I believe her personality type to not be dissimilar to you and mine. And she said, she was in a situation that was kind of bearing down on her. And so before she went into it, she felt like she would put on this armour. She would put on this suit of armour. And at the time I giggled, I was like, oh, we're all a bit crazy, aren't we? And then I was like, you know what? There's something about that. Just protect your heart sometimes. And keep on going. Just keep on going. I love the song I love the band's name more than I love anything. Chumbawamba. I'm a girl of the 90s. Chumbawamba. Yeah. I get knocked down. I get up again. I love that song. And that is secretly one of my anthems that I play in my head. I have a soundtrack for life. Most of it's derived from like the 80s and 90s, but I'm proud of that. And that song plays in my head. When things get a little bit tricky, I think, oh, hell no, nah, you can knock me down, but bing, I'm up again.
I'm up again.
And, I love that song. So that's one of my strategies. So funny. Just sing that. Very
new intro or outro.
Yeah, full of wisdom today.
Yeah. One of my personal faves is the Eye of the Tiger.
Oh, look.
I need to pump myself up for something on the way to it, an event or a performance, or I need some,
voice hip hop class. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm with you.
That too. Just back to what you were saying from what Kelly said, I think there's something in what we've learned as dancers, isn't there, when we're kids, that, you put on that suit of armour before you go on stage, because that's such a huge thing, stepping out into a spotlight. You're putting yourself out there for people to view and judge. And I think there's something in that, isn't there, that sort of putting on that costume or that suit of armour and being able to go out and face and perform in a way, protection, isn't it?
It is protection, yeah.
those feelings.
Yeah, and look, it's a good strategy. So I'd encourage people to try it. One of my thoughts I've been discussing with my dad, actually, who's my greatest mentor. I share that as much as I can. I'm so proud of him, and if I'm anywhere near the kind of human he is at any point in my life, I will be ecstatic. And we were talking about resilience, and we got into the idea of mind fitness. And I said to him that, and that's where the idea of it's not if but when, and it's a little bit like your personal fitness, your physical fitness, in that we know winter is coming for us in Australia. So we need to do things to protect ourselves, and we need to make sure we're physically fit, we're exercising, we need to make sure we're eating well, maybe taking some vitamins. I love essential oils. I'm like the Wicked Witch of Adelaide with my oils. I'm like, oh, let's put this on the diffuser.
That is like the last description of you I would use. Wicked Witch of Adelaide.
Oh, I'm pretty forceful about them. Like, people don't really have an opportunity to I'm like, here, we're going to pop this in today, and they have to smile and nod. But so we do things to protect ourselves, from perhaps becoming unwell physically. And I think it's the same. Resilience is a mental game. It's about mental toughness. And so I can feel weak mentally and I can feel strong. But when I'm at my strongest, it's when I'm living my good habits. And for me, that is exercising, not particularly well. Like I'm a bit lazy actually, but I do enjoy a walk, and that clears my head and it makes me mentally strong. I meditate, not daily, but pretty close to it, and that calms my mind and centers me. And so that if I'm doing those two things particularly, I feel really strong. And so, and sleep. When I'm really tired, I'm not very resilient. I'm quite teary.
Yeah. Well, and there's a reason why sleep deprivation is used as a form of torture.
Hello to all the new mums out there. Yes.
This too shall pass.
Yes. It's okay if you're teary and you're feeling a little bit weak. This is why. Yeah. So I think sometimes instead of going, oh, I wish I was more resilient, we can put some things in place to make us feel strong, to make us go, I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do that with our kids, don't we? Like, I'm constantly talking with my children about, you can do this, come on, keep going. And we're always encouraging them, but we don't often stop and think about that for ourselves.
Correct.
And often when my kids are in a bit of a pit, whether that's been like the other day, my daughter got her braces off. She was so excited and cried. She cried and cried afterwards.
Yeah,
because she was so disappointed. It was like a build up and then this big letdown. She was all right later in the day.
Yeah,
and I was so wild with her, to be honest with you, because I'd spent a lot of money on those.
Yes, true that.
I'm always on at my kids about practicing gratitude, being grateful in that moment when you feel, you're in that pit and you feel terrible. Take a look around. Us here in Australia, we live in the most blessed country on earth. Take a look around. Look at what you've got. You've got a warm bed, a roof over your head. And I know it's really cliche, and my parents used to drive me mad when I was a kid.
Oh, mine too.
Those children in Africa without food. Well, you know what? They're right. They're right.
Yep, they are. Yep.
And I find that, so I do that with my children, and I do it for myself as well. I practice that gratitude when I feel like, I haven't achieved something, or, like the car needs new brakes and, oh, my God, it's another expense and la, 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 la. Well, you know what? I've got a car.
Yeah.
I've got the resources. I've got the things around me to make that happen. So, practicing the gratitude for me is really important.
Me too. And I love that because, again, see, it's a mental game. It's all about your mindset. It's everything. And if you look, there's this story that says, look around in the room that you're sitting in and look for all the blue things. Look for everything blue and write a list of them, and now tell me what's red in the room. You go, well, I don't know, because you didn't tell me to look for that. You told me to look for the blue things. And that's a great little story, because that's kind of, we can psych ourselves into a bit of a pit as well. And so the attitude of gratitude brings us out of that. So if we're looking for things, we are really seeking them out, things to be grateful for, thankful for, then they are going to be more obvious to us. And that positive mindset can be the thing that can just get you over the line when things are, and here's an Australian saying for you, for all of those around the world, when the shit hits the fan.
Oh, you're a classic. I love how we just assume that this is like a worldwide podcast.
Oh, look, people from around the world, Mel, around the world. Well, I just, in case, that is Australian, right? I mean.
Yeah, I assume so. I don't know.
The shit hits the fan.
I've got to say it like that too. It's too funny.
And just kind of tying a bow on that, looking.
On the shit.
No. Come on, back you come now. On looking for the good, here's a great little saying. I read so much and I forget where I get all of this stuff from, but so now I'm just stealing it and pretending it's mine. But listen to this, it's so good. No problem is so bad that we can't make it worse in our head. How good's that?
Yes.
No problem is so bad that we can't make it worse in our mind. Loved it.
That is, oh gosh. Okay, I'm going to write that down.
Write that down. That's noteworthy.
On my 13-year-old's desk right now.
Because we can catastrophize.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can make.
I do that at 3 o'clock in the morning when I wake up.
That's a good time for it. Yes,
isn't it? Like that's the worst time. And I mean, in those moments, I just get up and get out of bed and shake it off, because I know I just am going into this pit of making things worse in my head when they're actually not that bad.
Have you ever written down like a list of things that are worrying you at 3 a.m. in the morning, and then like at 8 a.m. looked at it and felt a bit embarrassed?
Yes. Absolutely. I went through a phase of having a notepad next to my bed just to do that, and then every time I'd wake up I'd think, oh, really?
Just go to sleep, woman. Yeah.
And I think so just going back to what you're saying about, you can always make it worse. I think there are times in our lives, and earlier this year I got sick really suddenly and ended up in hospital, within a couple of days, and was in for a week. It was totally unexpected. And in that moment, I mean, there were lots of things I learned through that, but in that moment, nothing else mattered. All that mattered was my health. And that's also coming back to that idea of gratitude. When things might feel stressful, really, bottom line is, if you've got your health and family around you, everything's going to be okay. Honestly, it will be fine.
Keep it in perspective.
Yeah, totally. Because when that's ripped from underneath you, I care deeply about my work and my job and the school and all those sorts of things. But when I was sick, honestly, I didn't care.
No.
I didn't care about it. Like, I really didn't, because all I could focus on was my health and trying to get better. So I'm trying to kind of hold that at the front of my mind.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a story that is shared by a lot of people who have been through, fairly traumatic illness as well, and come out of it the other end. And perspective. And look, sometimes that is hard to tap into. We're human. So when you're in the middle of struggle town, it is hard to kind of go, keep it in perspective, because the feelings that we have are real. But perhaps just that little voice in your mind that says, will this matter in 5 years' time? And the truth is that episode that you went through, and strangely enough, it mirrors one that I did myself 4 years earlier, that does stay with you, and it does matter in 5 years' time. But there's a whole lot that doesn't, isn't there? And in fact, can you think of something from 5 years ago that was really worrying you at the time in your business? I can't. Sometimes I stumble across them through an email, like in my, and I think, oh, wow, that was really big then, but it's not bothering me now.
Yeah. One of a good friend of mine, she's an author, and she's written lots of books around, or one of them is called A for Attitude. We use it in our studio for our students. And I was talking with her one day, and I was worried about, I'm not worried, I was, anticipating a presentation that I had to do. Very simple. It was no big deal, and I'm quite comfortable talking about people, but this particular audience was a really important audience to me. So, when you're talking to people that you really care about what they think.
Yeah.
And she just said to me, she said, all you need to do is visualize how you're going to feel at the end of that speech. Imagine what people will say to you, the feedback, obviously in a positive sense. Don't imagine the bad stuff. But, she was saying put yourself in that moment. What will that feel like? And keep that at the front of your mind. And it was such a simple thing, but I've used that quite a bit.
I love it.
Yeah. It was just a really nice little kind of reminder of just picture what is that going to look like, feel like, and keep focused on that and not focusing on what could go wrong.
Is that similar to kind of the idea of perhaps of vision boards as well? It's like keeping in mind the end, and tapping into that part of the brain that will, kind of just pick you up when you need it up. I love that.
Yeah.
And also, I think I'm very motivated by rewarding myself. I'm actually not very good at it. Like it's more the idea of rewarding myself. So often I'll go through a really heavy work time, and then I'll think, at the end of this, I'll reward myself with a massage. And just the idea of that can get me across the line. By the time I get to the end, I'm often like actually okay, because then I'm enjoying the joy of the finished project, and I'm like, whoa, I did it, and I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good, and I sometimes don't even end up getting my reward. But I think success, is obviously motivating, but look at the little small wins along the way. So perhaps if you're trying to secure a new studio space, you need a lot of resilience for that, because you are going to get knocked around a little bit through all of the various hoops you have to jump through. So maybe kind of dot out what those hoops are, getting council approval or getting this, getting that, to get yourself into the building of your dreams, and celebrate those little wins. And the reason I'm talking about that is, as you know, one of my dear friends has undergone a cancer journey lately, and that's one thing that I watched her do, is just celebrate, this is the end of chemo. She wasn't so much going, and now I have radiation. But that was a line in the sand that she could focus on. So like just a little bit ahead. And then she got through that. And then she was like, right, now we've got 4 weeks of radiation. We're going to celebrate at the end of that. So I think that was a really good coping strategy that I watched her do. And certainly I thought about it and went, I think I do that a little bit too in those big projects, those big things that are long. And you do need, it's a long game. You do need your match fitness to get to the end.
Absolutely. And celebrating with your team or the people around you. I mean, even if it's as simple as, bringing in some cupcakes and shouting everyone coffees in the morning, or,
I'm there.
Like little things like that, just to nurture yourself and your team or your family. And I'm a big believer in that too. The other thing I wanted to say too was just thinking about, those moments where we do get knocked down, because as, we've reflected on, it does happen often, is that, we can say, practice gratitude and do all of those things, blah, blah, blah. But it's like you do have to hit that bottom note, don't you? You have to go down.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, it's not to beat yourself up for like, I should be grateful all the time. Like, let yourself go there. Do something to nurture yourself at that point. So it might just be going for a walk, or going down to the beach, or just going and grabbing a coffee and walking away from your computer. Or
yes, I believe you rang me one day and I was sitting by a creek.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but yeah.
But that was rock bottom for me. I was really in struggle town, which is why you rang me, bless you. Thank God you did, and I burst into tears because you were so nice to me. But yeah, I just needed to kind of just sit there in that for a minute.
Yeah. And you know that, I mean, it's okay to do that. I think, we don't want to do it for too long.
No, don't dwell there.
But let yourself go there, let it out, have a good cry or do whatever you need to do. And then it's about that sort of like, okay, I'm digging in now.
Yeah.
Grit, off I go.
That's it.
And for me, that is, I rang you because I knew I could sense all the way from Victoria.
Definitely.
I needed to call you in that moment, and that's what friends do, isn't it? Reaching out to people in those moments is so important.
Yeah, and you knew that I wouldn't have called you as well, and I think that's what made me so grateful for it, in that it was just the tonic I needed, but I think you know me well enough to know that I wasn't going to pick up the phone and say, I'm really struggling and I just need to cry down the phone. Got a bit of a pride issue, but I'll work on that. All right, Mel, we are drawing it to a close, believe it or not.
Already?
I know. I know, I'm just warming up. But we are enjoying our 3 top tips to kind of bring these podcasts to a close. It can be some new material if you want to swoop in and blow us away, or you can recover something we've already chatted about. Over to you.
Okay, so my top 3 tips for resilience are practicing gratitude. So we did cover that, looking around for the good things and feeling the gratitude for those. That other tip I shared, which was shared with me by my good friend Julie Davey, visualize what the end will look like and focus on that and those feelings that you're going to have at the end of. So if it is, okay, you're applying for a permit for a new lease or studio, focus on what that's going to look like and feel like at the end when those days are hard. And something we didn't really get to today, but it was a sort of a point of reflection for me when I was off ill and really did not care about my studio at all that week. And it was the first week of our season, like it was the first week of the year, so it was a real test for my team. And they came through with flying colours because we had systems in place. So, that's just sort of a point about trying to build, those resources around you. So
build some backup, huh? Yeah.
When things do go wrong, you know that you can leave the business. It's not going to crumble and fall without you. So,
because obviously that would have made everything completely different. Your experience of that time would have been completely different, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you. Beautiful. All right, I've got a couple as well. One which we did just touch on when we were talking about, reaching out to friends. Don't be a lone wolf. I don't tend to be a lone wolf, but I am quite a proud person, and I do feel like I have to kind of be the strong one. I'm the leader of a large organisation. I've got somewhat of an online following without kind of going, that's blowing my own trumpet, by the way. So I feel like sometimes I have to be all things to everyone, and I think, we need to get over that, and don't be a lone wolf, because lone wolves they're somewhat gaunt and they're mangy looking, and they're not all that attractive. So get a pack around you and open up and trust the people that you love and are there to support you. They love you, and let them love you, and let them ring you, and it's okay to cry down the phone. My other second one is just about taking time sometimes. So I think when we're really, particularly, let's just go with trying to get a new studio space, there's lots of boxes to tick. We're like working 24/7 and, I don't have time to rest, but I'm so tired. And that's when you need to rest. So if you get tired, learn to rest, not to quit. Just take a moment. Like you said, go for a walk, do what you need to do. Don't beat yourself up about it either. Don't shame yourself. Go to bed early, have a bath, get some perspective, and then come back the next morning on all cylinders firing.
Yeah.
And my last one is you've known me for a number of years now, and I talk about joy at any point that I can. And this is what gets me through those dark times, because joy is like a light to me. It is like my North Star. And so when I'm in the dark, I look to the light, and joy manifests in my life in so many ways. It's Liam laughing and being funny. It's when I go downstairs and my preschool students are all coming in and waving at me, and I think, hey, that's it right there. Let's get some of that.
Yeah.
And we didn't touch particularly on our why, and I know that's been kind of it's been talked about so much if you're on any kind of podcast or reading any kind of blog, but it is worth mentioning. And John Maxwell, he's an amazing author and speaker. He's so clever with words, and he says, when you know your why, you know your way. And so that's kind of how I wanted to sum it up. It does help to remember, if you are working hard and things are knocking you down, why are you doing it? And for me, if I spend some time with my family, they're my why. And if I go downstairs and I get into the studios and I have a great class, that's my why. And those things bring me joy.
Absolutely. 100% agree. I love that. Know your why and know your way.
Yeah. He's very clever. I would recommend anybody, who loves to read, or he's on a lot of, YouTube and stuff like that. But John Maxwell, one of I'd say my favorite mentor, actually, beautiful writer, but every now and then a sentence like that, I think that's about 6 or 7 words, a sentence like that will pop up in one of his books, and you might read 500 pages, but you take away those 6 words and you keep them for life. So when you know your why, you'll find your way. Miss Mel, thank you. I again have really, last week and now again, at the end of this conversation, I finished and I'm like, that was the best use of my time. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, me too, Jane. It's just the highlight of my week. Love it.
Good times together. And we hope it's not all about us. We'll assume that it's not, and that you are enjoying it too. If you are, be sure to let us know what resonated with you. We'd love to hear from you and connect with you. We will chat again next week when 6th episode, all ranking them up now, getting experienced now. And next week we're talking about our productivity hacks. So I know that is something that a lot of people are keen to know about. So we look forward to chatting with you then.
Perfect.
Bye for now, Miss Mel.
Bye, Miss Jane.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of our exclusive series At The Barre, powered by the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. For more training, resources and support specifically for dance studio owners who are wanting to grow their business while reclaiming their life, we'd love you to join us in the Dance Studio Owners Association. For all the information, go to dsoa.com. Take care, and we'll see you next week.